Hi everyone. Tonight seemed like an important night to talk about courage, and I would like to just take a moment together and call in the energy of Sekhmet if you choose to work with her in your path, just to kind of help us get comfortable with stepping into courage and what that can look like for us on our paths. And I would offer that with everything that's been going on universally and personally for all of us, this is really a time where we are being called to be courageous on our own paths and not allow fear to rule us any longer. So, hold on one sec. See if that helps a little bit. Okay. So, here's the thing about courage that I think stops a lot of us in our tracks. We can feel like in order to be courageous, we mustn't actually feel the fear of making a change in our life or standing up to something or someone or choosing to be who we really are. Not just inside, but allowing that to be mirrored throughout our everyday life, allowing that to be seen on the external as well as the internal. And so when we're thinking about making those kinds of changes in our life and stepping onto our path with boldness and with courage, we can often feel scared to death, right, to do that. And we can feel that maybe we feel too scared, and maybe the level of fear we're feeling is a sign to not do what we want to do, because if it was the right thing to do, right, if it was the right thing to do, if it was our purpose to step into this thing that's scaring us, then would we really be as scared of it as we actually are? Wouldn't we feel empowered in what we were doing? And this is the beautiful thing about finding courage on our paths, is that when we are working with courage, it's a matter of embracing that fear, of looking it in the face, and of doing the thing that scares us the most while we are afraid to do it, right? So courage isn't about not having any fear. It's about embracing the fear. It's about using the fear as fuel for the change and the shift that we're being called to make. Now, we connect with Sekhmet about this because her righteous anger and her courage, her bravery, her boldness in battle served the tribe, right? I mean, when it was out of balance, it needed to be brought back into balance because it wasn't serving the tribe. But there was a purpose to her rage and a power to her extreme passion, right? So when we're talking about courage, we are talking about following passion. And we could look at that in a multitude of ways. So it could be passion for a project, passion for a belief, passion for a path, passion for our spirituality, passion for, it could even be a career, it could be a relationship, it could be any of those things. Whatever it is that's pulling us in this passion to follow our paths, right? It's like married with that fear. It's coming up against that fear, which is pushing us to make a change. The friction, the fear, the thing that feels the scariest and perhaps the darkest, the most in shadow, is really the biggest gift, because that's what's helping us to see. That's what's giving us the clarity. That's the contrast that's helping us to look at and see where we're out of alignment, where we're not lined up with our truest self. And first of all, first and foremost, we do have to talk about that and experience that in the internal plane, right? So if you've had a session with me, or if you're working with me on this, and we're always going to talk about, first of all, you've got to feel it on the internal plane. Inside, who are you? Inside, what is your path? Inside, what are your passions? Inside, who is your authentic self? Because we can't experience it and explore it in the external until we have done that work on the internal. Until we've really gotten to know ourselves and we've gotten to know what our path is, right? So we have to spend time with that. And we have to get to know and fall in love with those aspects of ourselves that we've run from and that we hide from. So we need to do that work first. Always we need to do that work first. But there does come a time in the physical plane, right, on this place that we call Earth, where we do actually have to, we'll find that we're called at a certain point in time to mirror or embody the internal that we've now woken up to in the external plane, in the physical, in the realm of contrast, because the contrast is, again, serving a purpose of helping us to see something with clarity that's out of alignment. So there will come a point in time on our paths for most of us where we are called to take what we've been exploring on the internal and allow it full expression in the physical and the external, right? It's like the microcosm and the macrocosm that we talk about. And so this is where marrying courage comes in and is very, very powerful. And again, when that courage comes, when it's time to step into that courage, it's not that we are fearless. It's that we are embracing our fear. We are looking it in the face. We're honoring the lesson that it's giving us, and we're moving ahead anyhow. That's the courage. The courage is that it doesn't stop us from moving. It's not that the fear goes away or that we don't have it anymore or that the courage conquers the fear. It's that we move through the fear because of courage, because we are in a space of courage. And that allows us to see that that which we were afraid of is actually our biggest lesson and the most powerful teacher for where we are at that point in time. And the looking at it, the honoring of it, but still moving through it, not being stopped by the fear, but instead honoring it and moving through it, that's what allows us to shift. Courage is what allows us to step into a space of trust and a space of empowerment on our paths. Because when we align with that energy, we can take a leap of faith, right? Which makes us all think of the Fool in tarot, because you probably come to the channel to work with tarot. And so if we're going to work with the Fool, we're going to take a leap of faith, which takes courage, because taking the leap of faith means that we're seeing something that not everyone else is seeing, and that we're being called to explore something physically, right, internally and externally, that not everyone else sees and that doesn't make sense to people, things that aren't safe. I have found this year, 2017, a huge shift in my work because of my own personal journey that's really pushing my work to step into a space of exploring the boxes as a society and as people that we put ourselves in, and that we choose because of a sense of safety, a perceived sense of safety. And tarot really marries beautifully to this idea of stepping out of those boxes, and like breaking free from those molds that we've been told are what keep us safe, and actually choosing to take the Fool's journey, to take the leap of faith and explore a path that is not safe, that's uniquely our own, and that probably doesn't make sense to people who have chosen to accept a societal standard as life and as being meaningful and as the only thing that can be meaningful. Now, it doesn't mean that we can't find meaning in those roles, but when it doesn't line up with our path and we choose to stay in those roles because of fear, we cut off parts of ourselves, and those fractured parts of self then become lost, and we lose our sense of purpose and our sense of understanding and fulfillment on our journeys. So again, we have to step into the Fool when we find ourselves in these boxes that have cut us off from being authentic, being alive, experiencing, growing, and shifting, experiencing an expansion of the soul, which is what we've all come here to do. It's to grow as souls. And in order to do that, we have to experience and explore and take adventures, take ourselves on adventures that don't make sense from the perceived idea of safety, right? And so when we choose to take those journeys, even if things don't go right or the way that we want them to go or the way that we think they should go, when we open up to an experience fully and we engage with courage and we really explore what the adventure is leading us towards, there's no wrong in that. There's nothing that can be wrong in that experience or that we shouldn't have done or that shouldn't have happened. Those experiences, every moment, every choice, every step is serving a purpose of helping us to expand as far as our souls go. From a soul perspective, it's all serving a purpose. Whether we do something or we don't do something, whether it works out perfectly and beautifully for us or we feel like we fall flat on our face, it's not about something working out. It's about the adventure, the experience, and the expansion at a soul level. So it seemed important tonight to talk about this word courage. And you guys know every once in a while I'll do a little video like this because something comes through that feels like it's important to talk about. And there is a lot of fear right now. There's fear on a global level and there's fear on the personal level as well. And it's interesting because I was speaking with a healer friend and teacher of mine recently, and we were talking about, why things are happening certain ways at this time. And I will post the information to some of her trainings below. She's my teacher, Stacey, who I've worked with for years. And she was really encouraging me to look at the shift that's happened from a karmic level of now we're stepping into a space of heart as a planet. And because of that, we're no longer solely focused on honoring contracts, karmic contracts, right? Like we have been in centuries past or on journeys past. In this life, in these bodies, we're looking at heart, at operating from heart and honoring heart and opening and expanding heart. And so because of that, we're being called, all of us, to kind of deal with our shit, right? And really look at where we are not lining up and in alignment with our soul and our heart. And in those areas where we're not in alignment anymore, it's not so easy to avoid that and look at that. It's not so easy to stay in those safe boxes and ignore something until you die and leave the physical body. We're holding ourselves accountable at heart level now in a new way. And so this brought up this word courage for me over the last few days. I've really been sitting with that. And this again makes me think of the Fool in tarot. It makes me think of the entire Fool's journey, but it also really makes me think about, from the Fool, stepping on that journey and those kind of stopping off points, right? So certain points that we might highlight when we're talking about courage, the Strength card, right? Because what is strength? Is strength vulnerability or is it physical prowess, right? Is strength boundaries or is it a complete opening, right? Are boundaries strength? Is it complete opening strength or is that weakness? When can we trust? When is it appropriate to trust? How much do we trust, right? So we're looking at a lot of things there with strength. And then the other card that comes up for me a lot when I think about courage is the Wheel of Fortune, which for some of us is a crazy ass card in tarot, right? But the Wheel of Fortune, really talking about destiny, right? And those points in our life when we come up against a lesson that we've chosen to experience before we incarnated in this form. And wow, what happens when free will comes up against a soul lesson, right? That's what the Wheel of Fortune is for me. What choices are you going to make? Because this experience was meant to happen, right? This experience, it was meant to happen. You were meant to be in this space and look at this and have this lesson, right? So then we go from the Wheel of Fortune and the realizations that happen in that space, right? When providence steps forward and things happen the way that they're going to happen, but still we have free will in the situation, right? Like, we're not a victim to the situation. The power, the courage comes in there for how are we going to react to this, right? What choices are we going to make from this place? Are we going to stay in fear? Are we going to stay in smallness, or are we going to step into our authenticity in the experience? So then from the Wheel of Fortune, moving into the energy of the Tower, of the Death card of Tower, those things that pull us down, that tear all of the building down, that tear the walls down, that reveal the crack in the foundation, and then say to us, what did you create from this crack, from this faulty foundation, right? From this, what is this thing that no longer serves that it's time to get rid of? How are you going to rebuild? And from there, working with the Devil, moving into passion, right? What are our passions? How does that line up with our authenticity? How can we step into courage to fully explore our passion, right? So not looking at the Devil as a negative card here, but instead, what is the power of the earth in this experience? How can we bring this element in, and how can it empower us to step into courage on our path, right? And then from there, stepping into the Star, remembering to understand the power of co-creation that we have on our journey as well is also powerful. So within the Major Arcana wheel, we can explore and interact with courage in each and every card, not just these cards, but each and every card, right? We can start to really find the power in that. And look at how our own journey lines up with this, and what wisdom we can take from the archetypes held in each and every one of these cards, right? And so even if you don't work with tarot, you can explore courage on your own path in the same way that I'm talking about here. But either way, when we are connecting with courage, it's not about being fearless or without fear. It's about stepping into the fear and stepping through the fear and not letting the fear rule you any longer. So again, I bring this back to tarot, right? Because these are my roots. And if we are working with the Tarot of Vampires deck, when we look at the 5 of Pentacles or the 5 of Skulls in that deck, right? That image is very arresting. And it's a powerful one to look at, because what we're looking at there is what happens when we allow our fears to rule our life. And when we do that, we are a victim to the fear and we don't move forward. And yet when we can honor the fear and step through the fear by looking it in the face and following the path anyhow, there is a beautiful symmetry that ends up happening on our path, and a power that we step into on our path through the vulnerability of being afraid and doing it anyhow, right? That really serves for expansion at a soul level. So just some thoughts on courage tonight. It seemed like a good night to talk about it. And if this is coming up for you at this time, know that you're not alone and you're supported on your journey. You're supported by Great Spirit, whether you want to call that God or Great Spirit or the universe, choose your own word. You're supported by your spirit tribe, by the energies that work with you and that guide you. You're supported by your higher self. And you're supported by the elements and the earth as well, to step onto your path, to follow your truth, to allow shifts to happen, to allow changes to happen on your path, to allow growth to occur. Those things you are supported in, because that's how you explore and grow as a human and as a soul, most importantly, right? And having that experience mirrored in the physical path as well as in the internal plane is a very, very powerful thing. So I hope you are all doing well. I am sending you much love and many blessings, And I will see you in the next video. Bye, guys.